So Aszurdee, how did you end up with entrepreneurship as your passion?
Hey, Wendy. So I have been an entrepreneur since I could remember. Basically, I mean, if I am to tell the truth, I grew up poor. All right, I say it like this because it needs to be said. I couldn't afford the R. Okay, and so I just literally had to be creative and come up with ways to literally catapult my life. And so, as far as I can remember, I think maybe 6 or 7. My mom worked 3 or 4 jobs, and we couldn't. There was more month than it was paycheck, and so for me, we had to come up with creative ways to make an extra, for snacks at school, for anything. And so, as far as I can remember, I was selling candy at school. All right, I had the lollipops, I had the Jolly Ranchers, you name it, I was selling it. All right, Girl Scouts didn't have anything on me. All right, I would go to each door and give them the little smile and sell a slice of cake for like $5. All right, so I always had a knack for business, entrepreneurship, and for me, it catapulted out of me trying to be a solution to my family's needs, and that's basically how I joined the journey of entrepreneurship.
Well, and I love that story because so many of us had those early life experiences of, selling something for our school activities. And yet some of us decided we dreaded it and hated it and did not become entrepreneurs. Clear that there are some that embraced it, loved it, and felt empowered by it, right? So as we think about entrepreneurship, one of the things that comes about is I've seen statistics that during times of economic downturn, there are more and more people who are applying to start new businesses. Is that one of the impetuses that for starting your Black Women Entrepreneur Group? Or what have you seen as you started that group as far as new women starting businesses?
Well, for us, the initial reason we started this group, it wasn't about stats initially. Stats came in later. It was about the fact that we didn't see each other in spaces. So in her industry, in what she does, and then in my industry and what I do, and in the fact that we are both community advocates, we're both well known in the community, for us to have never crossed paths in Tulsa. Like, we were friends on Facebook, but we never seen each other in person. And you guys know how Tulsa is. You may not know somebody, but you can say, oh yeah, I've seen them at an event, or I've seen them in this space. But we literally were Facebook friends for years, but never laid eyes on each other in person. And I was doing something else, and she reached out and she was like, I want to support what you're doing. And her coming to support that was literally the first time we laid eyes on each other. I thought, and it was so funny thing, she doesn't know this because I've never said it, but from Facebook, I thought she was 5'10", and she's not. So I did not, that's how much we didn't know each other. And then after we connected, we began talking about how we don't see other Black women entrepreneurs in spaces. And so we just started off with, she wanted to do a brunch, and I was like, yeah, let's do a brunch. And we created a Facebook group, and we brainstormed women to add to this group, and we had 65 women between the two of us. And we thought that was an amazing number. And so we created this Facebook group so we could host these monthly events. And then within a week, the Facebook group went up to 150. And it was literally just Black women entrepreneurs. And we were shocked. We just did not realize that there were that many Black women entrepreneurs. And so, we said we wanted it to be fruitful. We didn't want to just meet to meet. And so we started asking the women, what did you guys need help with? What information and resources did you need to know? We were going to have guest speakers and things like that. And literally they said everything, basically. And so my brain got to moving, and I was like, we can do way more than just brunches. We can provide resources and have a membership. We can make this a whole association. And she was like, okay, yeah, sure. And so, so we literally spent the last month of 2019 or 2018, like putting this organization together, and then we launched. But it really just started as a need of us not seeing ourselves represented in other spaces, when just even locally here in Tulsa. And then as we did the research, we found out that at that time, Black women entrepreneurs are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the country. So we started taking those stats and we incorporate them into what we were doing. And when you read the report from the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, it goes into some of the suggested ways to help Black women entrepreneurs. And one of those was creating an ecosystem. And we're like, hey, that's what we are doing. We're creating an ecosystem for Black women entrepreneurs to gain access to resources and information.
So Aszurdee, one of the things that Charity's mentioned is how important it is for Black women who don't often see each other in other spaces to have a space together and support each other. What are the needs that Black women entrepreneurs have that might be a little different than just your average everyday entrepreneur, or are the needs generally the same as other entrepreneurs?
Yep, I think her thing just dropped.
Oh dear. Well, I tell you what, why don't you answer that question? Oh, I see her. She's still on there.
Oh, there she is. I think there she goes.
Maybe having some connectivity issues. Aszurdee, are you back with us?
I am. Let me fix the camera and I will be right back. I don't know if I can hear anything.
Okay. Well, Charity, why don't you go ahead and answer that question that I asked about, are Black women have some needs that are different than other entrepreneurs, or is it generally the same sorts of needs, and what are they?
I would say they are generally the same things. The bigger issue is the access to those needs. For one, like local access, I can tell you now, things that are here locally that people don't think anything of, a lot of Black women entrepreneurs didn't know they existed. And that's one thing we like about our partnership with 36 Degrees North. Probably to mostly everybody on this call, 36 Degrees North is like a staple place. Oh yeah, like that's 36 Degrees North. Everybody knows what that is. Well, that's actually not the case. You know, when we started 2 years ago, Black women really didn't know anything about the place. They didn't know it existed. They didn't know what it was for. And so that's what we see a lot of times with the resources. They need the same things, but they don't have the same access to it.
True. So Aszurdee, this group, is it still primarily local Tulsa, Oklahoma, or is it spreading to be a larger ecosystem across the United States? Because it seems to me that Black women would have similar needs everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have been expanding. We've, I believe we have we're again, Oklahoma City. I don't know if Charity told you because of the connectivity issue, but Oklahoma City, we have one scheduled to launch in Miami, Florida. We have a chapter getting ready to launch in Houston. So yes, Wendy, the need and the resources are, prevalent in all across America, especially, for entrepreneurs in general, as Charity mentioned, some of the issue is Black women entrepreneurs don't know these resources exist. And, and there isn't a hub or an ecosystem that literally partners with businesses or individuals that need these services or the resources.
So are these franchises that people start? Are they set up as business associations, professional associations? Are they set up as nonprofits? What's the business model, Aszurdee?
So it's definitely a nonprofit. What we're doing now is each local chapter will have its own. So each local chapter has is an extension of BWBO America, but no franchise.
Yeah.
Got it.
And
As of yet, you know, it's definitely on the horizon. We've thought about it. Charity and I have went back and forth on as we expand, because we're doing that here rapidly, what would be the best option for us, being that, you know, we're a nonprofit.
Yeah. And like any other national chapter or membership association, our local chapters, the membership volunteers, and they become their own little micro boards. So each chapter has its own board. But one of the things that we do differently is, like, for example, with League of Women Voters or PRSA and some of these other organizations, we don't make the chapters 501c3 and be their own entity. So literally, we manage all of the nonprofit status under Black Women Business Owners of America, which then leaves the women open and free of that burden of trying to focusing on running a whole entire organization from a financial and legal standpoint. They're now focused on getting resources, building an ecosystem locally, getting access to resources, and growing and advancing the agenda for their chapters in their area.
So Charity, your Zoom background has Women's Business Expo. Is that a separate endeavor than the Black Women Business Owners of America, or is it related to it? And tell us more about that.
Yes, so this is our annual event that we put on, and the purpose of the expo is to expose the community to Black women entrepreneurs that they may not normally have access to or don't know about due to the business's lack of marketing efforts, or people just being in their own bubbles and not really venturing out, or, you know, just, you know, everyday life. You do what you do and you don't think about what could be outside of that sometimes. So the expo provides that way for us to do that. So literally, the expo is all Black women entrepreneurs from every sector. We've had chiropractors set up, we have retail, we have food and beverage, whatever their business is, in professional services, whatever their business is, they set up, and then they, you know, we have people come in. Admission is free for patrons to come. And we really just want to encourage them to get to know and shop with local Black women entrepreneurs there. We also do sponsorships. So we have sponsors there. And then on the flip side of that, for entrepreneurs in general, we have speakers who come and talk about entrepreneurship topics. So, So when we launched in 2019, the organization, we also went on ahead and did the expo as well too. And we ended up having 10 classes with about 15 to 20 speakers. We had panel discussions, and then we had about 25 women. And when we did our survey, our exit survey on the expo, all of the women that were selling something there made back and made a profit for that event. And they definitely sold above what the vendor fee was. And then they also gained new contacts for them to reach out to. So it increased revenue, and it also increased their network, which is one of the most important things we wanted for them.
That sounds fantastic. Do you have a date yet for 2021? And how could people on this call be involved, even if we're not Black women business owners?
We are working on a date. We usually, now before the pandemic, we said we would do this the first weekend in August, but we're still trying to figure that out. It will definitely be in August because August is National Black Business Month.
Oh,
so
cool.
Yeah, so that was another reason why we have it in August, to be strategic with that. But we're still working on the date. But anybody can be involved in participating in Black Women Business Owners of America. You can be a local chapter sponsor if you really want to focus on local connectivity with our local women. You can be a national sponsor if you have a company that has a further reach. You can be you can sponsor an event that we have. You can
also
Go ahead.
Yeah, and you can also be a member, even if you're not Black. We have men, we have white men that are a part of Black Women Business Owners of America, because they absolutely agree and they've partnered with us for our mission, and they recognize that it is a market that is underserved, and that the women need access. So they volunteer, they become members, they volunteer, they have lent their expertise to sit on panels, to teach courses, whether it's how to use SEO to capitalize on the market. Why, if you have the thing is, our mission is to provide resources for Black women business owners, right? But anybody who can partner with us to serve that mission can be a part of what we're doing here today.
Yeah,
Well, thank you. Yeah.
And I
Go
will
ahead.
say too, it's about growing their networks as well. And so, and other people's network. So you never know who you could meet at that you wouldn't normally, if you don't normally have access to a wide or a diverse group of people, being a member of the organization gives you that opportunity. So that could be your potential, somebody in our organization could be your potential next client, or they could have a business that could meet a need that you may have in your business or in your life. So it's also about networking as well too, and building connections across different spectrums.
So thank you for clarifying that. That's super helpful. And we're all a part of the ecosystem you were talking about. So for those of us who do run businesses or, have business to business relationships, if we wanted to increase our vendors who were Black owned, is there a resource here, particularly here locally in Tulsa, where we could learn more about different Black owned businesses?
There are a lot of resources now starting to come out. One of our founding members, and she's also one of our founding board members for our national organization, her name is Angela Chambers. She has started something called the Tulsa Black Owned Business Guide. And so she puts that out, and it has information on local Black owned businesses. The Tulsa People magazine for their March issue. So if you go back to last month, they put together a list of Black owned businesses as well too. And I think the Black Wall Street Times has something, or they're working on something. And then Fulton Street Books and Coffee, they put together a little guide as well too. With the centennial coming around, there's a lot of people putting together different guides of local Black owned businesses.
I think it's important. I think many of us want to support all sorts of locally formed and started efforts, and our money can help increase that economy. So I think that's a great example. And I'll look up the Tulsa Black Owned Business Guide. Mike Workman, since you're so good at finding links for us and putting them in the chat, if you could find some of those links, I'd love it. So one of the things I was struck by, Charity, is you talked about your desire to start your business primarily to give yourself more control over your own destiny and time. The other reason I've heard that a lot of people start businesses is just kind of that necessity in the gig economy. When you think about your business owners, what are their motivations for starting their own businesses?
It ranges from a variety of things, from again, wanting to have more time, wanting to be in control of their lives, wanting to build legacy. And another one is the lack of advancement in their current workplaces. We talk about a lot of the glass ceiling for women, and the glass ceiling is definitely lower for Black women. So not, being overlooked for promotions, not getting the raises, when you're talking leaving their job and wanting to fulfill a better journey for their lives.
Yeah, so opportunity to fulfill personal goals and ambitions, to garner wealth, and something that they can pass along to their children. So certainly I'm open to any questions from individuals on our chat today. But I'd be really remiss if I didn't give both of you a chance to make a plug beyond your Black Women Business Owners initiative. What are your personal businesses, and what kind of work or leads would be beneficial to you? So Charity, you're on my screen. I'll start with you, and then I'll go to Aszurdee.
So my personal businesses are, I'm a strategic consultant. And so I focus on PR and branding, business and entrepreneurship development, economic development, and politics and government. So any leads, if you have a business and you need PR and branding, definitely let me know, give you a call. Some of my clients are John Hope Franklin. I do all their event planning for their major events, and as well as the media relations for them. And then my latest client is TEDC. So I'll be working with them on their branding and communication strategy. And so those are some of the people that I work with currently right now on that front. So anything dealing with PR and branding, definitely let me know. And if you're a company that does a lot of interfacing with government or policy, I do government relations. So not necessarily lobbying, which I can if the price is right. But just being, business owners, they don't have time to always go to city council meetings or committee meetings or be at the state or at the federal government or, keeping track of legislation. So they can hire me to do all that for them. And the great thing is I already help people get elected to office. So those are people that are already in my network on that front.
Great. That's nice. I can see where those are several endeavors, but they are all related. So Aszurdee, what is your work when you're not working on this?
Well, since you've asked, I'm also a serial entrepreneur, but mainly my area of expertise is real estate. I own a real estate school called the Embassy Real Estate Ambassadors Institute. We teach people how to get their license. We are approved, OREC approved, Oklahoma Real Estate Commission approved. So if you're needing to get a license to become a real estate professional, you can come to the Real Estate Ambassador Institute. If you are wanting to be a broker, you can come there. My main focus is to not only teach clients or individuals how to get a license, but to learn how to use it. We focus with children. So we have a side that is from 16 to 21. We teach them, life skills. The number one thing that I do in my institution is to make sure the younger generation are equipped with the skills to not fear gentrification, but to provide, equipped with the education and the tools and resources to combat gentrification with what I call gentle friction. All right. These are in communities that they live, work, and play in. So we allow them to assess their communities to see what's going on, what are the latest investments, be a part of city planning, those type of things, so they can actually be an active participant in their future, in their communities. So that's what we do. We teach how to invest, not the traditional way. A lot of people get their license, but really don't know how to use it. And so what we teach our students here at the Embassy Real Estate Ambassador Institute is how to invest, whether they're looking to wholesale, whether they're looking to learn how to flip, assess properties for their own self. We're teaching them all things real estate and financial literacy. We teach them that as well in our institution. So it's a well-rounded education. We partner with real estate professionals. So if you know anybody, I know real estate agents come a dime a dozen. So if you know a real estate professional that's in the industry that is willing to give back their time to teach students in underserved communities, and that's anywhere. It's not just about a race, it's about underserved communities, because this is important, is near and dear to my heart. And that's what I spend most of my time doing, educating all things real estate. I'm a real estate broker and commercial loan broker as well. So that's it.
That's plenty. So, and one of the most important things in this world is when young people have mentors and adults in their lives that care about them, it does so much to improve their opportunities. And so, that sort of, as we achieve things, if we reach down and help pull others up, that makes a huge difference. So I love that you're both involved in that kind of activity.
Yeah, and I have to note that her school is literally the only Black owned real estate school in the state.
Sometimes we need someone else to kind of shout out how extraordinary our accomplishments are. So thanks, Charity, for doing that. Obum, you have your hand raised. At first, I thought you were just giving us a high five for agreeing. But if you'd like to unmute and ask the lady the question, I'd be delighted.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Charity and Aszurdee, for coming here today. You already know how, both of you should know already how I feel about you. You have been key in my development and my wife's entrepreneurial dreams here in Tulsa and in everything. You know, you guys are truly, to me, are experts in everything. And, you know, I'm not a Black woman, but as soon as I came to Tulsa, you were the first people that supported me in my journey. So in saying that, you know, and even coming, you know, even recently getting a house and Charity, all the entrepreneurial work you're doing for us and the professional work in my career, as well as, you know, community building, both you all community build. So as being experts, my question for you is, if you two weren't here or left Tulsa, I don't think my journey would have been as great, right? So how can the leaders here on this call and the city of Tulsa support people like you to not leave Tulsa? Because if you do, that's going to hurt the city, because you guys are two people who are truly moving the city and people may not even know it. So how do we keep you here?
Well, I would say, ooh, that's a question.
Yeah.
I know that's a whole nother webinar on its own, but if you could just a couple things.
I think that, you know, providing access to not just resources, but the development of the city as a whole. There's a lot of people in Tulsa that feel left out in whether it's city planning, education, healthcare. There's a wide swath of things that people feel left out in. So being able to provide access to be engaged in certain processes that happen in this city, I think that's how you keep people here in Tulsa. And I probably can say this for the both of us, but Aszurdee will say too, you know, we feel like we're here because we know this is where we're supposed to be. So beyond even having to fight for access, even for somebody like myself, I still have to fight to get seats at tables. As many people that know me, the work I do, I still have to fight to be included in things and fight for equity here in this city. So for some of us, it is about legacy and where we are supposed to be. You know, God has me here. I've tried to leave. God was like, nope, you're coming back. And he shut doors and was like, nah, get back to Tulsa. So I know this is where I'm supposed to be. You know, this is a calling. But I think for people who maybe aren't that far along in their spiritual journeys or their walks with God or whatever they believe in, when they're very, you know, forward, front facing, it is about having access, having resources, being able to advance in their careers, giving opportunity, having mentors and sponsors in their professional careers that are going to be there for them.
Yeah. And I would just add to that, you know, I would challenge everyone that's, you know, under the sound of my voice, but most importantly in this, you know, on this forum, it's important that, you know, first I want to thank you, Obum, for, you know, telling us how you feel and, you know, what we've done. Because a lot of times, you know, Cherry and I think about it, we're just head to the ground, we're plowing, we're doing the work, and it's most of the time thankless, you know. And so I appreciate that, you know, what you've done, Obum, is something that, you know, energizes us, inspires us to keep going, because we know if we've got one person, if one person was made better, if we're able to change one life, you know, that means the world to me in Charity. So I definitely would, you know, want to thank you for that, and everyone else that's here on the sign of my voice. I feel, you know, I would say, you know, when you're invited to those meetings and they're talking about economic development and they're talking about youth empowerment and training up, you know, children and Black women business owners and how to get more. You mentioned Black women business owners, you mentioned Avenue PR, you mentioned the Real Estate Ambassador Institute, because that's, you know, we're business owners, and the way we get expansion, the way people hear us is by you guys, you know, saying, hey, Aszurdee and Charity, they may be a good fit. They're community advocates, they're doing the work, and this is what they're doing. I think that is what, you know, that is what gets us, seats at the table. It sometimes it hurts, to know that there's programs being offered to individuals that are coming from out of the state into our state, and we not to do the same exact things, to start the same exact programs that we started when we've already cultivated relationships with the community, and they're getting the resources that we need to maintain the relationships. So, just mentioning us for those partnerships when they're in the think tanks, and you guys may have the opportunity to sit in those rooms, to just mention the work that we're doing, shoot them over to our website, our numbers, get in contact with us, because we are in it for the long run. Like Charity said, it's our passion. It's what we're called to do. And we've made a commitment to be here, until when the dust settles, we'll still be here. And so again, thank you, Obun.
So, and that reminds me that all of us as individuals involved in businesses that are making decisions about how we use our money, we can be advocates for, have we looked for this service locally, if there is discussion of bringing it in from the outside. Mike Workman, you've got your hand up. Would you like to unmute and ask a question?
Yes, and first, yes, I do have a couple things in the chat, including clickable links. But first, a shout out to my friend Charity. We always talk about how she's one of my top 5 friends in that other political party. We both go up and we both go against the tide in our respective parties. And my new friend is there. But my question is I was a member of a leadership class in another state many decades ago. So my question to Charity and Ms. Sade also is, what can you suggest we could do to get more Black women involved in future Leadership Tulsa classes next year, the year thereafter? And no, Wendy did not pay me to ask this question. But how can we improve the applicant pool from Black women business owners in Tulsa?
Well, I can tell you now, I'm on the board, so
yep. Okay.
I'm definitely sharing. I'm definitely going to be working on sharing and expanding that into our program, into our network of women here in Tulsa. So definitely, for sure, that's a goal of mine. I do think when you're talking about diversity, inclusion, and equity, it does have to happen in stages. And so I think this past year, we have been, as a board, working effortlessly to really review how we are as an organization and our diversity and equity and inclusion within all of our programming. So looking at it from a broad perspective. And I think as we're getting that nailed down, we're also going to start narrowing in on each area so that we can, increase those things in that area. So on my standpoint, through me being on the board, I am working on that.
So one of the things as you're talking, I wanted to let everyone know is Leadership Tulsa set a very big and important goal for ourselves that 50% of our class participants across our programs would be people of color by our 50th anniversary in 2023. And we see this as a reparative opportunity to make sure we're really making sure that more leaders have more access, more skills and training to serve in more different ways in our city. And the other thing that this conversation has made me think about, and I'm actually going to reach out to some of our committee chairs after this, is maybe we need to increase our membership budget so that we are looking for memberships in some organizations we've not been members of before as an organization. So I'm actually going to make that email as soon as we get off this call.
And Wendy, I would say even the leadership, Leadership Tulsa, I know Charity knows more about it because she was a part of it.
Yes.
Even allowing, setting up time with, us to, so the organization, the women knows what Leadership Tulsa does, from someone, from your board, not just Charity, but someone to come out to speak, to be a part of the community. Okay. That is, part of what, we're doing in the community to a group that you may not, know, and that's all a part of leadership. That's all about part of developing, women, these business owners, So yeah, I just think just camaraderie, working together, that would be, the best thing we could offer one another is camaraderie.
And since it's Good Friday, thanks for letting me preach to the choir.
We are the choir, but I love being a part of the choir. Thank you, Mike. Lynn Flynn has a question. If you want to unmute, this is fun today.
Hello. Well, first, I just want to say thank you for educating me. I've worked with women business leaders for a long time, and I had no idea there were that many women-owned Black businesses out there right now. And so I'm really excited to hear that. And I was just curious to hear from you two. Like, I love to hear people's lessons learned when you started out. Like, what would you say, if I had it to do over, I wish I would have known this, or I wish I would have done this differently to help other people in business?
Great question.
You want to go first, Aszurdee?
Well, I think, man, you know, listen, every day, what's your name again?
Lynn,
Make sure. I can't hear you.
Lynn Flynn.
Lynn Flynn. Look at that. That kind of goes together. Lynn Flynn. I like the way it moves, you know, it's like smooth. Okay. Um, okay. So I think about this all the time. And I would really say, for me, I was, you know, because resources were always pretty tight, and I always tried to find the shortcuts, you know, to entrepreneurship and how I would like succeed, and looking for that one big break, that one big thing, that thing to do right, you know, like in entrepreneurship, it's like, what do I do right? What is that thing that gets me more views, that gets me more clients, that gets me more, so that I can get to where I want to be. And so every time I go back and forth every night, like I'm like, Lord, how do I make this work? I think the number one thing that I would say to any entrepreneur, not that I regret anything, but that I think the one lesson that I would tell an entrepreneur, or would tell my younger self, is, you know, in entrepreneurship, there's no shortcuts, only the ones paved by previous entrepreneurs. All right. And so I'll say that again. In entrepreneurship, there's no shortcuts, only the ones paved by previous entrepreneurs, by ones that have been in your shoes, ones that have, you know, have the mentorship, have the coaching. Like literally, I would not, the bumps and bruises that I've went through, a lot of the things, if I would have paid that person who was actually where I want to be, where I aspired to be, it would have cut me a lot of, like, I would have had a lot of more room to improve. I paid a heavy cost. And so that's what I would do. I would literally get the mentorships, get the coaching, be under the people who can make your business journey a little bit easier. And so that's what I would say.
Nice. Charity, your thoughts on that question?
I'll say the one lesson that I've learned through this journey is that networking is key. I don't think I would be as far as I am today if I had not networked, if I had not spent hours being out in the public, not just for my business, but just for community in general. I was, you know, those of you that have known me for a long time have known that you've probably seen me any and everywhere. You could see me from a protest and a rally all the way to a Tulsa Regional Chamber meeting and everything in between. And I spent so many years volunteering with different organizations and being a part of different groups. And I think that has totally helped with my development as an entrepreneur. And that's one of the things, like, as we started building out our chapter, how our chapters would operate, we have a part in there for community engagement. Because of what a lot of business owners don't realize is that being involved in different things also helps to get their brand out there. However, it is a catch-22 because a lot of business owners that are full-time business owners and entrepreneurs, sometimes they just don't have the time to get there to do those things. So figuring out a way to pay somebody for an hour or two to run their business, I would definitely recommend it. It's almost like with what Aszurdee just said, if she would have paid the right people. And I would say if you can pay the people for just a couple of hours, you know, to manage your business so you can go out and be out. it definitely, you know, networking and getting out and being a part of the community is imperative.
I think that's such great advice because it is a catch-22. And I just thank you all so much for your presentation today. We've had some very nice comments in the chat about how much it's meant to people. I've learned some stuff and some stuff I'm going to act on in our own organizations. So thank you for your time. I have recorded most of this presentation and I'll be sending it out to those who are registered but not here. And I just want to wish everyone a beautiful spring weekend and a happy Easter if you celebrate. So thank you.
Thank you for having us. You guys have a great day.